Speaking of the Roosters, the Book of Feuds, we see the players getting into it each and every time, and the media as well.
Mm.
What is it about the Book of Feuds? What every time the Rabbitohs and the Roosters play?
It's funny, isn't it? We go back to that. You can. I could talk about this all day, but the funny thing is, mate, in the Super League war, they said people don't want to see South play the Roosters; they want to see Melbourne play Adelaide. Like, have you ever seen anything more fierce than my mob versus the Roosters or your mob versus Penrith?
Yeah,
And and I think the thing is, mate, like me growing up in Redfern, but went to school in the eastern suburbs. Everybody around there is South or Roosters. And back in those days too, a lot of players played for both. And I don't know, it's kind of something instinctive that you're born, if you like the Rabbitohs, you're born to hate the Roosters. Um, and like 1975, I'm 9. So really starting to come to the awareness of it all.
yeah,
They win the comp 38-0 over the Dragons. My mob finished dead last. So I hated them even more. And so there's always been this fierce rivalry. And then we didn't beat them for years and years and years. And then around about 2005, we beat them on a field goal. And Troy, we celebrated. We went to the Woolpack Hotel in Redfern. It was like we'd won back-to-back premierships.
yeah, yeah,
Um, Having said all that, I kind of feel like it's hard to knock them of late. They are a consistently competitive side. And I think you go back a year or two, you remember they would have had probably 10 players out injured, and they
yeah.
still made the 8. And, there's probably something about them there that maybe wasn't always there, but there's a lot of spirit in the Roosters now, and I'm risking my life saying that. But, mate, the Rabbitohs, the mighty red and green, 21 premierships, they'll always be my side. But yeah, look, I can even go back. I can't even put a day on it. It's like if you grow up loving the Rabbitohs, you grow up loving the Roosters, and you grow up hating the Roosters, and vice versa. And I think a lot of that's got to do with, we go back to the old days. The distance between Redfern Oval and the old sports ground's probably 2.5, 3 Ks.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, well, we certainly saw it last year in the semi-final. That was a brutal, brutal game, and
Wasn't it ever?
we
Yeah.
saw it when Allianz Stadium opened up, who was going to be playing out of there, and
Hmm.
Trolliant Stadium, and uh, so that'll be interesting to see what happens.
But you blokes should have the same thing with Penrith, wouldn't you? And when you've got a
Yeah,
couple of ex-Penrith players in your team, you know,
yeah, yeah, no, definitely. Certainly these days it is. The Penrith Parramatta rivalry's back again, and obviously back in the '80s it was Parramatta and Manly and Parramatta and Canterbury, but
yeah.
yeah, no, definitely these days it's Parramatta and Penrith, and I live in Penrith, so a bit of Parramatta fan living in Penrith, it's pretty hectic. So
Yeah.
it's my favourite game of the year is going to Penrith Stadium and supporting the Eagles.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't beat that sort of thing, mate. And mate, wait till they win the grand final. People will be ringing you up. I want to come on the podcast.
Well, let's hope so. Let's hope
Yeah,
so. 2023, it's the year of the eel, I reckon. They might say the Lunar New Year, it's the year of the rabbit, but
exactly.
is that going to be
Mm.
an omen or?
Mate, look, you know, it's gonna be an interesting year. I really think, Troy, Penrith are going to be hard to beat. I know they've lost Kickow. I know they've lost Happy Coruscant, but I still think they're going to be hard to beat.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be right up there, and yeah, it's going to be a cracker of the year. It's only under 40 days now till the comp starts. Can't wait. So, um,
Mate.
just before some common league questions,
Mm.
you do some sportsman's lunches
Yeah.
that I've seen on social media. Um, I'd love to get to one, but I'm always working on a Friday, so
Mm.
when they usually happen. But uh, who is your favourite sportsman to do a lunch with?
Oh, look, mate, I like them all for different reasons. But you know, I really like dealing with I mean, MG and Daryl are like for me, they're the two easiest.
Okay,
You know,
yeah,
they're set and forget. You want to come do, yep, I'll do it. there's no drama. There's no, Fletch and Hindy are great, but they're harder to get, Wendell's great, but he's working on the drive show now. So out of those kind of five, I'm probably missing one or two there, but, at the end of last year, MG and I and Daryl went on a tour, and we went to Burrawa, Gundagai, Wagga, Cowra, Leeton, and geez, we had fun. They had so much fun. And then when we come back, myself and Fletch and Hindy did Goulburn and Canberra. So they're all good blokes, mate. Not everyone in rugby league's a good bloke, but all those blokes are.
Yeah, no, definitely. I've had Daryl on the podcast. I've had Hindy on the podcast. Trying to get Fletch and trying to get MG as well. So maybe one day. Day. Is there a funny story that you could tell us from one of those sports lunches? Is there
mate, I've got a couple of beauties that only happened recently. And this one is didn't happen at a sports lunch. This happened, Aaron Woods, still playing in the NRL.
Yeah.
Aaron Woods and I and some other blokes had to go to Melbourne to call a game. And anyway, Wendell's there. So two stories into one here. Wendell's there, right? So the game ends. It's a final. So it might be, I think it was Canberra, Melbourne, but we were in Melbourne. And then the next game's Cronulla and I think Cowboys. So anyway, it's, in the finals. They're both on Saturday night. So the game ends. Wendell says, let's go. My mate, this makes sense, doesn't it, so far? What I'm saying?
Yeah.
I said, the game ends. Wendell says, all right, we're all going back up to that pub. We're not going to have a big night. I'm going to have a couple of beers, he says. I'm going to have a feed. I'm going to watch the next game. Then I'm going home to bed. No problem. All right. So we go back to this pub, right? I get him he wants what do they call it? A pint.
Yeah.
He's had the pint. He's watching the game. He's had another pint. He's had another pint. The NRL finishes. The AFL's finishing. The AFL finishes. This band starts playing. So he gets up. Oh, yeah, he's the big dog's in town. The big dog's in town. Takes his jacket off. People come from everywhere dancing with him. The big dog's in town. I said, come on, we got to go home. I'm not going. He would not come home, right? He would not come home. So I don't know what happened to him. Me and Woodsy go back to the hotel. The next morning we wake up. I said, let's get some brekkie. He goes, let's go downstairs. It's $100 a head for the brekkie. But he says, I'll put it on my Triple M thing and they'll pay for it. Well, you don't have to ask me twice, right? So we go down to this thing, and there's bloody bacon, mushrooms, sausages, a bloke making omelets to order. It's the fanciest breakfast you've ever seen in your life. I get all the bits and pieces. Woodsy goes and finds the biggest bowl and has the biggest bowl of Cocoa Pops you've ever seen in your life. And that's what he wanted for $100 a head. Meanwhile, we go back outside to the, shuttle cars picking us up to take to the airport. No Wendell, not in the car, not on the plane. Plane arrives in Sydney. We get a call from him. He goes, yeah, look, I meant to tell you guys, I had to do some business down here. So I don't know where he was or what he was doing, but he missed the whole thing.
Two classic stories there. Where can people organise a sportsman's lunch if they're interested? Might have to have one here at the Para Cave one day.
Yeah, mate, we've done a lot of the Para junior teams, Borkham Hills, I think, and obviously Wenty, but it's Anthony Maroon with 2 O's, Anthony Maroon at bigpond.com.
Nice. We'll put that up, and anyone interested, get some legends and have some fun. Are you still doing the trivia nights?
Mate, I don't really. My old mate Robbie Duckworth was away, so I filled in for him, and I've been doing a little one at Wenty, but I'm going to have to wrap that up before the footy starts. But I do love doing that sort of thing. It's just a time thing these days.
Yeah, I remember back in the day, you used to do it at Panthers down the road there. I was there.
Did you used to come to that?
Yeah, a couple of times I went down there.
Well, you weren't famous then. You weren't famous then, like you
are. But I love me trivia. So
I tell you what, mate, you got enough shit in there. You wouldn't want that to go up in flames, hey?
Oh, mate, it's gold. It's not shit. It's gold.
Look at it all, mate. Have you ever tried to organise it?
Yeah, all the time.
God help your missus if you ever drop dead, mate. I don't know how they'll sort through that.
Oh, She'll be all right, mate. She'll
She'll
make
have
a
an option.
fortune.
Pay
Yeah,
the house off.
she'll make a fortune.
Yeah.
All right, time for some common league questions. Who's your favourite rugby league commentator to commentate with?
Oh, favorite bloke to work with?
Yeah.
I love working with Woodsy. I love working with Wendell. And I love working with Ryan. Geez, that's a hard one. I really love working with all of them, and I
Yeah.
particularly thought it was a real honour and a privilege to work with Sterlo.
Oh yeah, yeah, great legend of Parramatta, legend of rugby league, and great bloke as well.
Yeah.
Is there a commentator that you would love to work with that you haven't had the opportunity to work with at all?
Not really, mate. I mean, they're all just other blokes to me. I think of all the commentators, I hope it will sound biased, but I'm not being biased. I think the best commentator at the moment is Dan, particularly, at Fox,
Yeah,
and at Triple M. And I mean that from the heart. I'm not saying that because I consider him a friend.
yeah, no, he's certainly an all-rounder too. He's doing the
Yeah,
cricket as
cricket.
well, and so summer and winter. So yeah, busy man. Who has been the toughest player to interview post-game?
Mate, geez, I tell you what, some of them you can't shut them up. Others you can't get a word out of them. So, the hardest ones you get, Troy, and you might get this too. If you approach a club and say, hey, we need someone to interview or we need someone to come to this function, they'll send you the kid that's played 3 minutes of first grade and he just turned 18, and the poor little bugger's so nervous, stuttering and stammering because he's not used to it. So, my old mate Isaac Luke, old bully, he'd give you one-word answers and he'd be tugging on the back of your shirt or pinching you on the ass or something like that. So, you kind of get used to them. But then you get the other end of the spectrum, and you can't shut them up. So, say Isaac Luke's been the worst.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Do you think maybe rugby league media should sort of maybe follow in the footsteps of maybe supercars media? Like they supercars seem to have a lot more access to like drivers and or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, I noticed. I know what you mean. Yeah. Yeah, look, but no, I don't know that it could get any more than it is now. I mean, now they're interviewing players as they come off the field, coaches at halftime, cameras in the sheds. If anything, mate, events of the last, look at all these, like, with respect to you, a lot of these podcasts aren't run as professionally or as known as well as yours is. I mean, you do one, Steve Maven and Darren Brown, chaps do one. They kind of got a good name, but you've got these other ones that are coming and going all the time, and young footy players are just getting themselves in trouble, much like we've seen with this Broncos player and what he said about Kevy Walters. So if anything, mate, I think they need to rein it all in a little bit. Every player needs to have some sort of clearance before he's interviewed, or we're going to just continue to see these sort of things, which what happened with Selwyn Cobbo and Kevy. I mean, I don't know who's giving the okay for these kids to go on these podcasts.
Yeah.
If you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So if anything, mate, I would bloody wind it in and have a good look at it. I wouldn't be giving more access.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I noticed behind you there a bit of a car collection there, a bit of a petrol head.
Well, mate, this is the smaller wall, car lovers. These are the Valiants. I'm glad you asked, Troy.
Yeah.
Valiants, and then I got some Fords up the top there. I don't know if you can see up there. There's a Cobra and a couple of Gossies.
The Alan Moffat car there.
Yeah, the 1 and 2. So then on the other wall over there, we'll do that other wall next time. It's chockers with Holdens and a couple of American products, but love cars. Great way to waste your money. But look, you know what, Troy? I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't gamble. Why not spend it on something?
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. So you're not You're not a Ford or a Holden man. You're just a car lover.
I'm definitely a Holden man.
A Holden,
GM,
okay.
anything GM.
Yeah.
Chev, Holden, Pontiac, Cadillac, anything GM. Yeah. So you should be a car man too, being in Penrith, mate. I trust that you leave the house every morning and do a couple of doughies up the main street.
Mate, I don't know if the old Mazda 3 could do that, I don't think. Uh, yeah, maybe I'll give it a try early in the morning one day. When we win the comp, I'll do that. I'll,
Yeah, do that, mate. We'll paint the
yeah,
car blue and gold. I'll give you a hand.
100%. 100%. All right, well, we'll wrap things up with the personality questions, a set of six, as I like to call them.
Mhm.
What's your favourite holiday destination and why? Where
Call
do you
me
like?
a bogan, mate. Call me a bogan, but I go there about 8 times a year, the Gold Coast.
Oh, mate, that go great place.
Love it.
Shout out to Arnie, lives up there, Palm
Where does she
Beach.
live? Palm Beach.
Palm Beach,
Beautiful.
yeah, yeah, right on the beach. So, stay with her with the when Paris phone up in Queensland. So it's great. Um, you got your cars there, but how does Anthony Maroon relax when you got a day off? What's the one thing that you love to do?
Mate, I've got a lot of days off this time of year. Days off after day off after day off. Do you know what I do, Troy? I get up in the morning, I go up to the beach here, walk the dog, off his leash, Randwick Council, catch me if you can. And then I come back home. I've got a gym here. I go and have a good workout. Then I have something to eat and I go back to sleep. So, mate, my hobby is calling the footy and I just can't wait for it to start again.
Yeah, that's it. Favorite piece of advice you've been given from someone in your life?
Fail to prepare, prepare to fail.
Yeah, good one. If you weren't in radio and the media, what career do you think you would have done?
Well, my dad had a garage. My dad was a mechanic. We had our own business. So I probably would have ended up in there, but I probably would have sent them broke because as much as I love cars, I've got a beautiful car down there in the shed and I rarely look under the bonnet.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Now working at Triple M for many years, this would be it'll probably be easy or hard. I don't know. Who's your favorite artist now, or all time favorite song?
My all-time favorite artist is Billy Joel.
Yes.
My favorite all-time song is Billy Joel, You May Be Right. Yeah. So it always has been since I was about 14.
Did you catch him down in Melbourne just recently?
Mate, I didn't, but the only reason I didn't is I've seen him about 57 times before.
Okay, wow.
So after 20 odd years at Triple M with the bands, and to tell you the truth, mate, I just not motivated to go anymore, and the hustle and bustle and standing in the crowd and waiting for a cab. I just couldn't give enough of a shit.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Well, that's now. What about before? What was your first concert that you went to?
Well, my first big concert was May 1981, and it was actually Billy Joel.
Oh,
And
wow. Okay, yeah.
was at the old Horden, and he come out, first song he sang was You May Be Right. But I used to see a lot of bands then, and then obviously going into the last sort of 20-something years at Triple M, you could pretty much go and see whoever you wanted and meet a lot of these blokes as well. So I've met a lot of rock stars and seen a lot of bands. You name them, I've probably seen them and met them. And a couple of the greatest wankers I've ever met, Troy. Absolute wankosaurus, Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley from Kiss.
Okay.
Just that far up themselves, they could give themselves a colonoscopy. And, mate, I know that they are rock legends and rock stars and all that, but in the fair dinkum department, that doesn't impress me if you're going to be a tosser.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, that's fair enough. Well, probably good for you that they're retiring now, so no more tours and
well, I wouldn't go and
and
see them anyway. So,
well, my first concert was Dire Straits at the old entertainment centre back in
85.
1980. Yeah, Yeah, when the first CD came out, I think it was Brothers in
Yeah, right.
Arms.
And they
So
played about 10 or 12 gigs in a row, didn't they?
yeah, it was on every night. So
Yeah.
I think I was about seven then. So yeah, always remember that one.
Well, I had a good rort going then, Troy. Let me tell you about this rort I had at the time. Now, back in those days, you used to get your tickets, you used to have to go into, what was it called? Mitchell's
Um,
Bass or Ticket Tech or something.
yeah, Grace Brothers, I think,
Yeah, you
and
go into, back in, before I got into radio, I used to be at working Grace Brothers calling the specials. Ladies, come over here where you see the red light flashing. So I put me
yeah,
bloody Grace Brothers badge on, went and hovered around the Ticket Tech place. Doors open, crowd comes charging in. I'm first or second in the queue. Bought myself 10 tickets to see Dire Straits and sold them all. I can't remember what I paid for them or what I sold them for, but it was certainly money to be made in the old days.
yeah, well, money for nothing.
Yeah, boom, boom.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah,
Mm.
no, that's remember the old days where you had to go to Grace Brothers, line up, and off the computer, pick your seats where you want to go, and it's all changed these days.
Oh, mate, you got to be quick these days. But not a big celebrity like you. You'd probably just say, I'm Troy from the Para Cave, straight in.
No, I don't do that. Come
Because
on.
a lot of the what Vince Sorrenti's the man that goes for Para, doesn't he?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
the John English, God rest his soul, I think he told me once he goes for Para.
yeah.
He's a Para man. Yeah.
There's a few around.
Rob
Uh,
Shahidi,
yeah. Trying to get him on the podcast
he's
as
a great
well.
bloke. Rob, yeah.
Yeah, I had Vince on last year or the year before. He loves Parramatta. Simon Baker as well over there, and
Wow. Mm,
he's a Matty Ryan from the Socceroos. I think he's a
right.
Parramatta fan. So yeah, there's a few high profile ones there, but always good to have him around. And I think I may have converted Martin the Fire as well. He might become a
Ah,
Para fan. I interviewed him last week, and he said with this connection that we have now, and with Josh Hodgson now playing for Para,
yep.
he might keep his eye on Parramatta throughout the year. So we might have another one there. We sort of briefly touched on it, and the last one is how will South go in 2023? They've made the last three prelim finals, four prelim finals.
Mm.
Obviously, the grand final in
18, 19,
2021.
20, 21, 22, I think. Last
Yeah,
five.
so five, yeah, and
Mm,
grand final in 21.
mm.
Um, and also, how more importantly, how will the big gun go, Latrell, this year?
Look, I think Souths are going to be there or thereabouts, and I'm not. I say that from the head because I feel like I don't know how you write them off. They're always there or thereabouts. So I think they'll go close again. Have they got enough to win it? I don't know. They've certainly got enough to get there again. In relation to Latrell, Troy, I take a different view than most. I feel like Latrell. I feel like if you look at that thing he did season before last, where he whacked Joey Manu and got suspended and missed the grand final. I kind of feel like he cost us any chance of winning that grand final. And in particularly that year, I think his origin form was great, more so than his Souths form. So that's the season before last. I still feel a little bit like he owes the Rabbitohs a consistently good, solid season. And I believe if I take my Rabbitohs hat off and put just an NRL hat on, there's probably 4 or 5 fullbacks in the NRL that are better than him. So I think if he fires, Cody Walker fires, the little halfback fires. Obviously, AJ's a great finisher. Damien Cook will play well again this year, and they've got a couple of good back rowers. God love Latrell. I hope he goes well. I hope they all do. And if he fires, they're going to go very, very close, mate. But like I said, I still think Penrith are the team to beat.
Will Alex Johnson get the try scoring record this year?
I reckon, mate. He's unstoppable out there. Who'd you play your junior footy for?
I played for Penrith Waratahs.
Well, mate, when you were
Um,
playing for the Waratahs, you were nearly as lethal. What position did you play?
well, I started off as a 5'8", believe it or
Right.
not, and then moved into the hooking role.
So I was having a beer with this bloke at the Pio once, and he told me when you were playing for the Waratahs, even when you were 10, you had the glasses and the beard. I said, get out.
Yeah, no. I used to wear the big shoulder pads though, and
The mouth
later,
guard.
yeah, the mouth guard, and later on in the career, I put the headgear on, and I wasn't much of a tackling machine, so
Yeah, I was a turnstile, mate, so don't worry about that.
yeah, I was the same, and I did get the one year I did get a penalty try off a female referee playing out at Windsor in a semi-final. Put the little grubber through and got taken out and got awarded a penalty try. So I was happy about that. And my other claim to fame is I played against Craig Gower once in a schoolboy competition, and he ran over the top of me and scored a try under the post. So uh, champion player, Craig. So there we go. Well, Anthony Maroon, thank you very much for your time and your chat today. Really enjoyed it. I could have spoke for hours. Love listening to your stories. I hope to catch up again at a game and maybe even one day here at the Parra Cave.
Yep.
So good luck to the Rabbitohs. Not as much as luck to Parramatta, but maybe we'll catch up at Parramatta versus the Rabbitohs. And so thank you very much for coming on the Parra Cave podcast today.
Oh, mate, I've really enjoyed it, mate. And it's been great to have something to do, talk about a bit of footy. And no, mate, here's to your continued success because I know you've had the Parra Cave for a long time, and I know the podcast's doing good, mate. So keep doing what you're doing, and thanks for having me.